elsewhere, the Israelis did it their own way. But yes, when we went to Islamabad, I was with the delegation on the flight. When we were going there, I don't recall if it was before we flew or when we were in Islamabad that an opinion piece came out from the Washington Post, which you remember, and it was saying that the negotiators should be killed. At that time, I was telling the negotiators that I think that Dr. Ghalibov, who is the chief negotiator, should not travel back with us on the plane. I think they should bring him back in some other way. And they too, those who were in charge of security, and they were contemplating what has to be done. And what the Iranians did was that they decided, with the help of, or with the coordination of the Pakistani government, the Iranians changed their planes, and we got on a different plane. And instead of flying back to Tehran, we flew back. And I think I said this on your show before, but we flew back to the city of Mashhad, which is near the Afghan and Turkmenistan border. And then I took a train to Tehran, which was about 1,000 kilometers, I guess. I don't know exactly, but I was on the train for 7-8 hours at least, eight hours probably, till I got to Tehran. So the Iranians were concerned that the United States or the Israelis would carry out an attack, and since they were their partners, that it would have been a joint attack. Just like during the war, the Israelis would bomb one place, the Americans would bomb another place, but they were doing it all in coordination. So yes, and in the recent negotiations, I'm sure you recall, Trump also threatened to murder the Iranian negotiators. So it's not an Israeli regime thing; it's an American thing as well. I mean, American governments, not the American people.
Right, of course, right, yeah. Yeah, so it's interesting. Of course, we should always be skeptical of the New York Times, and who knows who planted that story, right?
That's right.
Perhaps they're trying to appeal to their America First base, maybe by trying to imply that they, although they don't come off that well in this, but I do think it's probably, as you say, there is always both sides, but Netanyahu and Trump both like to pretend that they're fighting with each other more than they really are, to appease their own domestic base. I wanted to ask you about Brad, I'm not sure if Brad is here. He has to help bring in the next guest, so I'm going to screen share. This is a clip of J.D. Vance, Vice President J.D. Vance, on the Daily Wire's Michael Knowles show Tuesday, commenting on the supposed memorandum of understanding signed between the U.S. and Iran. So let us take a look at this video, and apologies to all that we're unfortunately having to play J.D. Vance, but I do think it's relevant.
So I think what the president has told us to do is use this MOU to sort of refill the world's oil economy, to refill some stocks, and then to see where the hand is.
Okay, so what are your thoughts on this? And you yourself tweeted in response. I'll reveal one of your responses. Iran has already restocked and is prepared to crush Trump's economy. So what else would you like to say in response to this video?
Yeah, it just shows that how hypocritical and cynical the U.S. government is, and that it is completely dishonest. And it, at least though, the Trump and Vance and this particular team, they're more open about their hypocrisy and their dishonesty. I think it was Pompeo. It was Pompeo who said, "We lie, we cheat, and we steal."
In the CIA, that's what we're taught to do. Yeah,
that's right. So these people are much more open about it than, let's say, the Obamas of the world, the Clintons, who pretended to be something very different, and they weren't. They were the same. But yes, that's something that the Iranians from day one were expecting, and with the signing of the MOU, the Iranians immediately went with the ceasefire, but also then with the signing of the ceasefire, they immediately went to work to prepare themselves for war. So the Iranians they're exporting large quantities of oil. A lot of oil was trapped on tankers in the Persian Gulf during the siege on the ports. That has all been sent to markets in Asia. So they're trying to address economic difficulties, deal with the needs of the population. It's a large country with a large population, and also to rebuild or strengthen or the Iranian military capability. So they're expanding their underground missile bases, underground command and control centers, building new missiles, using new technology. It's not as if though it's just Trump and Vance that have that are preparing themselves. The Iranians are preparing themselves too because they know how dishonest the United States is. But I think the world is in a much more vulnerable situation today than it was 4 months ago, and I don't see the United States being able to defeat Iran. I think it will be a
Uh-oh, maybe he got frozen because he said something so heretical.
okay.
You said you don't think
Yeah.
the United States will be able to defeat Iran?
Yeah, I mean, the United States couldn't defeat Iran during the 39-day war. And now the Iranians, they've learned from their experience in this war. I mean, during the Iranians, after the 12-day war, they had learned a lot from that war, and they prepared themselves for this much bigger war. And they performed better in this war than they even did during the 12-day war, which was the firepower of the Israeli regime is nothing compared to that of the United States. So the Iranians have learned of U.S. capabilities, its strengths, its weaknesses, and it's more confident about its capabilities. It's seen that it can fight and win a war. As I said before, many Iranians didn't think we could win. Many did. I did not believe Iran would be defeated. I did think Iran would win the war. I didn't think it would be so decisive. But in any case, the confidence of people in the country has increased. The economy, of course, is worse off than it was before. There's no doubt about that. But Iran knows that this is a fight for its survival. So, but in any case, what Vance does is that he just discredits the United States because people across the world see this and say, wow, these people, you can't trust them with anything. And any country that wants to do any deal with Trump or Vance or the Secretary of State or anyone else, they will always keep in mind that these people, they say one thing, but they're in reality, they're planning something else. You cannot trust the regime in Washington for anything. And I just believe that this is another sign of the decline of empire.
Sorry, Dr. Morandi, you're frozen again. Once you hear this again, if you could just repeat in full what you just said, you think that this is the sign of decline of empire in decline or declining empire.
Declining empire, because a confident empire does not speak in such a way. I mean, they always speak about democracy and freedom and how they're rational and how their victims, whoever they may be, are irrational and they love death, or they're unreasonable and so on. And that language has disappeared. And it's not just Trump. If you look at anyone who's been, I mean, if you look at the liberal media, which opposes Trump, but during the war, the language that it was using was more low of the negotiators. That's not something that the United States used to do. I mean, I've been brought up to dislike Kissinger, of course, for very good reason, and I'm sure the same is true with you. But I've never heard Kissinger or anyone like Kissinger say, "Let's murder the negotiators," or "Let's."
Right.
That's so. This is this sort of the crudeness that we see today, I think, is reflective of a desperation of the empire,
Right.
and which is, I think, a good thing for the American people. The empire is horrible for the United States. It's horrible for the American people. And when I was young, when I was a child in the United States, I left the United States when I was almost 13. The United States was the country where all the nice bridges were, where all the, the Lincoln Tunnel. I remember the first time I saw it, I went through it. It was like amazing. This was like amazing technology back then. The best airlines, the best, the best of everything.
Right.
And then ever since then, it's been all downhill, and it's largely because of late stage capitalism, but more than anything else, neoliberalism. It has been accompanied by endless wars, and the empire has overextended itself, and now it's collapsing. And hopefully, when it collapses, the American people will be freed from this class of, the Epstein class, and they can go back to rebuilding their lives and hopefully live a better future.